folks, I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Zee Garcia. Hello.
I'm Mike DiLisio.
And I'm Roy Cannaday.
Welcome to Catchupalooza, where one or more of us is catching up, playing a game that we should have already played, or at least some of us think that. In this particular case, me and Roy are new to the world of rescuing polar bears in the game called Rescue Polar Bears.
It's very on the
Data
nose.
and temperature.
Self-explanatory.
Data and temperature.
The what?
Yeah,
It's
the
Rescue
whole
Polar
game's-
Bears, Data and Temperature. You got to get the
That's the
whole
f-
name in there, Tom.
That's the full title of this game for some
Nobody
reason.
walks around saying full titles. Nobody does that.
Only kids, when they go to a movie theater, you'll notice this, where they go to a movie theater and they're like, the one buying the ticket, the kid is.
Uh-huh.
If an adult goes, they're like, yeah, one for the Lord of the Rings. And the kid will go buy a ticket and they'll be like, yeah, hi, can I get two for the Lord of the Rings, the Return of the King? Like, they will do that. I don't know why they do it, but they do it.
I love
All
that
right.
observation. That's why people come to these Catchupalooza videos, for things like that.
Well, before we start, let's go to the veterans, which is Mike and Z. We'll start with Z. And what's your opinion on the game? And then Mike, and then me and Roy will come in and tell you what our impressions as noobs.
Okay. So, I mean, it's a game I very much enjoy, which is how we ended up on this Catchupalooza, because I mentioned it. And it is a game that I find certainly very difficult, but the ebb and flow of the experience keeps the game really engaging for me. I like the fact that, you know, sometimes when you have like a new temperature spot, like a new tile that's going to melt, basically, when a new one shows up, it might be way above where the current temperature is, which means you have several rounds until that one melts. And so you can sort of, that pressure point, you know, that thing pushing at you backs off a little bit. You can then go do something else. And then you can come back to that when they start pressing on you again, you know. And sometimes it's immediate. Sometimes a new thing shows up and you're like, oh boy, next turn we got to deal with this already. Run over there, load up these polar bears, take them to the, you know, thing. I like that about it. I like that the polar bear rescuing isn't the point. I like that about it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just something you need to contend with while you're picking up data. I love the fact that the board melts away, and so at the beginning of the game, it's much harder to get around unless you willingly destroy ice, which is, you got to be careful doing that. And then as the game goes on, it really is much more open. That's a neat feel. There's not a lot of co-ops that feel that way to me. So I do really enjoy it. Mike, what do you think about it? I don't think I've ever heard you talk about it and your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think this was in my top 100. I really like this game a lot. You've mentioned a couple of things I like. The other thing is that this is one of those games where if you play a lot of cooperative games like I do, some of it's going to feel familiar to you. It doesn't really change the formula of cooperative games all that much, but it has all of the things I really like about cooperative games. It has kind of this feeling of imminent doom. If you don't keep up with things can go south really quickly, and you may have found that in your game. I seem to remember you had a difficult time based off of hearing you talk about it afterwards. But
We
this
did
is
okay,
one,
actually. We did
Did
okay
you?
in it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is one where the theme and the components, I have to admit, are a huge part of why I like the game. I mean, the game is just adorable. It really is. I mean, everything about it is so appealing. You see it on the table. I mean, perhaps it wouldn't appeal to many people, but it appeals to me. I just think it is a gorgeous little game. I also like the fact that the boats are all slightly different, so you have your own kind of little thing that you can do better than everybody else. It just, I don't know. It comes together in a complete package for me in a way that it just makes me smile. Every time I play this game, it just, even when I lose, and I lose pretty frequently, I still feel like I've had an amazing experience. It doesn't, you said it feels different than a lot of cooperative games. I don't know that it feels that different, but the theme and the components are what really set this apart for me. I feel like in a cooperative game, you have to kind of care about what you're doing, if that makes sense.
Right.
That's why theme in cooperative games can be so important, is if you don't really care about what you're doing, then it just feels like you're pulling levers. But I care about these stupid little bears. I care. I want to save them. And so that's really what sets this game apart for me.
By the way, folks, I should mention that in the description of this video, there's a link to the full review if you want to see how the game plays and learn more about it.
Yeah.
All right, Roy, what'd you think of this coming in?
I was going to be upset when you guys were describing the game if neither of you said cute while you were talking about it. I guess we'll settle for adorable because this game is adorably cute. The game is hard. Don't let that fool you. It looks like a kid's game as it's set out on the table, but there's a lot of things going on. There's all these cute little polar bears all over the board, and they keep multiplying and multiplying, and it's exciting, like trying to figure out as a team. It's a completely cooperative, just trying to figure out what do we need to focus on. Like, this is bad, but that's also bad, but then also this is going to rise over here, and we got to get that data point, because if we don't do data points, we're not doing the point of the game. There's a lot of cooperation that goes in this game. I also really enjoy the fact that all the ships are slightly asymmetrical, so that way everybody on the team, like, you're better at carrying polar bears, and you're faster, so you can go grab data faster, and everybody's a little bit different with the stuff they have. But there's also these, like, research things that you can get from uncovering all the different data that you can actually upgrade those ships. And then as a team, you choose which ships you're going to upgrade. Okay, we should upgrade you now because you're closer to that data point. You can grab that, and then you can grab that polar bear. There's a lot of cooperation that goes on. It's definitely tense because the heat just keeps coming up and up, and you can feel it rising. But I definitely enjoyed the play of this. And going into the game, it didn't seem like it was going to be the kind of game it actually ended up being, just because of the adorableness of how it looks. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a simple light game. Oh no, it's hard, but it was extremely enjoyable along the way.
Nice, man.
I thought the game was decent and good-ish.
Here we go. Here we go.
No. Look, I
if
think
Tom knew how to cooperate. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's not that.
Oh.
Yes, it's cute. I like that. Although I'm always really hesitant to play with ceramic pieces. That just scares me. I don't know why. I have like this unnatural fear of them falling on the floor and shattering.
Well, if you were scared, imagine how I felt. It was my copy. Especially when you are like, ceramic pieces, whatever. You were flicking them. Remember, you were flicking them?
This is not ice cool.
Ice cool.
Anyhow.
It was not, folks. I'm kidding. It was not flicking them.
I feel like I disagree with Mike. I feel like this is a different cooperative game. I played a lot of cooperative games. This one has a different feel to many of those. It does feel like there's a good chunk of randomness in the game, and I'm okay with that, but I also didn't love it. It's like, oh, the temperature, this is the one we need to go to. And it feels like to win the game, you need to play well, but also things need to go right. And if things go wrong, I don't think you could win. I think the way that the stuff comes out.
So many of these games, though. That's Ghost Stories.
I was going to say, I feel like you could say that about almost every cooperative.
Yeah, but I'm saying it about this one. And therefore.
What are some of your favorite cooperative games?
Don't change the subject.
Just saying.
I
what are some of your favorite
agree.
cooperative games?
I agree that a lot of co-ops, you have to play well, and some things have to go right,
Yeah.
Tom. Now, if you're saying that in
but
this
I
one
feel
you
that
feel
that's
like
stronger in this one.
more things need to go right, then
Sure.
that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
I get it.
I like the mechanisms. I like that they're fast and simple. I like the rescuing polar bear part of the game and trying to figure it out. I felt like there's a few parts that didn't feel super smooth, like how new polar bears are at it. Felt a little, I mean, if I have to look at a flow chart to see something, that feels slightly problematic. I almost just wish that they had just cut the genre, period, and just had adult polar bears and babies. If there's you just add babies, they grow to adults, there's two adults, they have a baby. It just seems like that would have been cleaner. And then we wouldn't sit there and we're actually discussing over which gender a polar bear were.
I love that discussion, though. That was fun. Keep them separated.
But I don't feel like it mattered at the end of the game.
Yeah,
Nah, it's fun.
That's a good point, though, Tom. It's a decision point. I think it can be a decision point that you make as a team, but is the trade-off for that decision point worth the flowcharty element? That I do agree with you on that. That's not as smooth as maybe it could have been. And you have to decide as a player whether you think that trade-off is worth it.
Listen,
And to be clear, lest I come across as negative, I think it's a 7 out of 10. I think the game is fine and it's fun. It's just not one I would put in my, like, say, top 10 co-op games.
just be honest. You think it's too hard, and maybe in a couple weeks, Ryan Lockett will come out with an easy mode for you.
No, actually, man, I thought it was hard, but
Yeah.
I didn't think it was mind-crushingly hard. I mean,
No.
I thought that it's one of those cooperative games that feels harder than it is, if that makes sense, where you're like, what are we going to do? And as the game goes by, you're like, oh, we're actually doing pretty good. I feel like that's one of those style games.
My guess is I'm at probably like a 45% win rate. It's hard, but it's not impossible. It's not. It never feels cheap to me. Random, I agree. There are some randomness issues, but it never feels cheap.
Right.
Well, there you go, folks. That's that. We'll see where it shows up next year on people's lists. Will Roy be overcome by the cuteness of the polar bears? I said it. I got it right. Polar bears. And it definitely is one. The theme is fantastic. Yeah. I definitely want to jump on that. So, all righty. Well, that's our next Catchupalooza. Next time, it's Mike's turn to be the newbie. Ooh. Until then, I'm Tom Vasel.
I'm Zee Garcia.
I'm Mike DiLisio.
And I'm Roy Cannaday.
Have fun messing with the temperature.